All right, so Meteor. So to make a Meteor, the Meteor creates, and we'll just call this CBK. And what it's doing now is it's setting up my folders. It's setting up my Mongo instance. So for setting up my database for me, and I can go into my CBK folder, and I've got a CSS, an HTML, and a JavaScript. And I'm going to open this up here as well. So you see I just got my CBK. And I'm going to close that. So I've got my .meteor folder, which we can basically ignore. I've got CBK, CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. And if I run Meteor right now as a command, it starts my node server, it starts my Mongo DB instance, and then I've got my app running here on localhost 3000. And I'm gonna just pull it up. I'm going to this 10.0.0.8 because that's my, it's my Ubuntu within Windows. So, okay, so this is our app. Instantly creates it. Welcome to Meteor. Click me. You can click on that, and you can see this runs up. Now, what's particularly cool about this is the only element that's changing here is this number in the whole DOM. So when I change, it's not refreshing everything. It's a lot like Angular in that way, where it's just changing this element. So if I came in and you did inspect element and made welcome to Meteor green, or I can still click this and it's not refreshing that. It's not changing that. So when you have a more advanced app with lots of stuff going on, it's just very, very fast, because when you're making changes, when you're updating information, you're not changing the whole DOM. You're only changing the elements that need to be changed. Meteor handles all that. Let's take a quick look at the code here. So we've got nothing in our CSS. We've got one template, and we've got our general sort of setup: head, body, body. This is handlebars. That's their. It's actually kind of space bars is what they call it, but really, if you know handlebars or you look up handlebars, 99% the same. And what this just says is, say we're going to call this, grab a template called hello, and then down here in the same HTML file or any HTML file in our entire Meteor folder that has template name equals hello, that's what it's going to grab and put in there. So it's kind of like PHP templating, but I find it much much easier, much faster. And then it just kind of grabs whatever code's in here and pops it in there. Then we have inside here a handlebars helper. So you can see we don't have that greater, lesser than, I guess. We're just going to call this thing counter, and then in our JavaScript file, that's where we get in there and start defining our helpers. So we only want to define it on our client, and when we actually get going, you're not going to have to worry about this stuff. We're going to set up a client folder and a server folder, so we don't have to worry about what's running on what. But being Node, JavaScript does run on the server as well. So, but we have this session variable. So session variables are very cool. They're reactive variables. They work just like any kind of variable, any kind of global variable. They just have the reactive. So if you have a function tied to it, when that changes, that function is going to run again and update. So what's that mean? So we're setting here a variable called counter, a session variable called counter, and we're just setting the default to 0.
Testing.
And then our template called hello, we're going to have a helper called counter. And you can see here in our template hello, here's our helper counter. And we want that to say it's going to be a function that just says return the session variable counter. So whatever that is, spit that out. And then when we spit it out, it just renders it into our HTML. We could change this to like return, you have this many And if I save that, it's going to look silly, but if I say that, hot code push changes it. So now you have you press this button. You press the button. You have this many 41 times. So I guess I should really say you have 41 times, right? So it just kind of drops whatever you have, whatever you're returning, into that spot. And again, we've got that session variable. So every time this session variable changes, this function is going to rerun, and it's going to re-return whatever the new result is. So just by plugging in the session variable, we're making this whole little section reactive. We're making counter reactive. Down here, we've got our events. So events are a lot like JavaScript or jQuery listen events, and so they've got template.hello. So in our template called hello, do this for the events. So if there's a click button, so we're kind of setting up a listener for anything that's a button inside this template, and anytime you click on it, run this function. We're going to set the session variable counter, and we're going to set it to that value +1. So that means that's all we're doing. We're not actually changing the DOM here. We're just changing our session variable. By changing our session variable, since it's reactive, it's automatically running counter. So every time I click on this, it's setting our session variable to +1 and then changing that. And since this is all client side, I can pull up my console and actually check session variable at a time. I can say session.get
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Okay,
And it's
how
going to
are
tell me
you?
42.
Pretty good.
Again,
You're recording this?
now it's 45.
Yeah,
And then that
People
is,
couldn't
like
make
I said,
it
so
that
that's
wanted
reactive.
to,
Every time that changes,
so-
anything connected to that is going to also.
so I would
be
record
run.
it and they could see it then.
So if I had something here that said,
Neato.
I could have a helper
and,
here.
my
like a
webcam
helper
doesn't
class.
work on the computer that
Class
I'm
equals,
decoding on. So I'm on two
actually, that's not
computers
inside
here.
the hello template. It's a bit of a pain, but here I'll do for
We'll
this.
see if it works.
I'll do style
And
equals.
see, I'm expecting
And I'm gonna make a reactive
Devin and
style.
Sylvester to get here as well. So
Let's do
Yeah, Sylvester said he's gonna. Oh, there he is.
color.
that's great.
Color.
Hey, Sylvester.
Hey, how's it going?
So what it's
Good,
going
how
to
you
say
doing?
is it's going to
Good.
create this style, and whatever variable color is, it's going to
All right.
spit out, and that's going to be reactive.
So Devin said he's
here
going to
I
try to
can
make it as
also
well.
add a session default.
But how about I just start kind of jumping? I know he's used Meteor a little bit already, so
black by
catch up.
default.
That works for me.
so I've
And then
got
we're going to create a
two
new helper
computers going here.
called color.
There's probably one with my face on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the one I'm going to be. That's going to have my audio, but the other one's going to have the
And
actual
we can
video.
say,
so I think you just click on
and we do a
the
little logic like if
thumbnail down there.
do var count equals
And here, share my
session
screen, so you should be able to see my
dot
screen.
Yet. I got it.
counter.
There you
Okay.
are.
Cool.
Let's say if count
See an infinite
is
number of
greater
me.
than 10.
All right.
What do we got now?
All right. So let's
35.
close it all this tons of
do-
stuff down.
The
That was great,
modules. I didn't know
Yeah.
you were a Windows user.
I am a Windows user. Yes.
So
I
many
am
things to learn.
Do
Windows,
turn
but
green.
we'll be running this in Ubuntu here. So I've got this VMware Ubuntu that I use.
Wait, I'm sorry,
so-
I messed that up.
So just terminal,
What are we doing?
And I use Sublime, so we're all familiar with that.
Yeah, I guess we don't really need.
And I'm going to
this.
be doing. So I'm going to
So we're just going
set
to say
up a
count.
new
So that's going to be
Meteor
reactive
project.
because of the counter. If
I'm
count is
gonna,
greater than 10.
just start
return
kind of
green,
populate it.
else
We're going to use
return
Iron Router to do our
black.
routes. I'm going to add some packages, so I'll talk about the package
Let's
system.
see,
And
that's-
basically, I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm just kind of winging this, but I'm hopeful we'll actually be able to kind of throw something up pretty quick. That we can actually start shaping. I'm going to start using material design as well.
Okay.
Mostly just because I haven't really done it yet, and
And let's
curious.
save our HTML.
So I'm going to be using this Materialize CSS.
All right.
Have
So it's
either of you guys
green
used this
because
at
it's
all?
45.
Nope.
And if I
Yeah, I haven't either.
Okay, so I think it's just like
counter
Bootstrap.
to 0.
They have the
Black.
different components, and just works just like
Green.
Bootstrap. Just basically a series of classes.
make
and
sense?
a couple JavaScript
Yeah.
elements.
to kind of get that
So
materialized
that's really
look. So
it's kind of on the
try and
surface.
see
That's
how
sort of
easy it
the
is, see how we like it.
superpower of Meteor. Not only does it sort of set up your whole environment for you,
switching
take
over
care of a whole ton of
to
stuff,
our
it also makes
terminal
everything
here.
in your DOM.
So I already
very
have
easy to
Meteor
make
installed
reactive,
on my system, which
is
means
relatively easy
designing,
to do.
doing really cool stuff with styles and animations, and
Let's see.
making things super interactive becomes very, very easy.
Backing
Whatever
out.
you can
Okay,
think of,
so
you can set it
to
up.
set up a new Meteor project,
I could have it apply it. Class,
Elaine, have
so,
you messed with this at
like,
all?
if
Or
I
you
wanted,
just looked at
when you
some
hit 10, I
tutorials?
want everything to shake.
Yeah, I looked.
Super easy. Just change
I
that
looked
to
at I think a video tutorials
you
on
know,
our site.
if greater than 10,
Okay.
you know,
All
return
right, so
a
this might be
class
familiar.
name.
And Sylvester, I think you've just
And on
seen
our
what I
helper,
showed you very briefly in the
Instead of
copy
style,
there,
we'll
is
do
it
class
right?
equals
Right.
this helper.
Okay. Okay,
And
so can you
it'll
guys see, is this
add
big
that
enough?
class to it.
If you can make it just a little bit bigger, that would.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that's kind of, you know, getting to the heart of this stuff. You got your head, you got your body, you got templates, and you just kind of build out from there.
You know, I wear glasses.
Yeah.
What we're gonna do
Okay.
is I'm gonna create a new
Yeah, we all
folder
wear glasses
called
on. Now that I think about it.
Client.
I wonder how, if there's a way, anybody know if
And
there's
that's
a way
gonna
to
be
make
where
the
we
terminal
put all of
font
our
larger?
client stuff. So instead of having to worry about this,
Command plus and
you know,
Mac,
is it
would that be
client, is it
Control
not,
plus
kind of
maybe,
stuff.
PC.
We're just gonna have everything inside client that we want to run on the client side.
No, that's not it.
We can also do a folder for server,
It doesn't like any of that.
and you can do a new folder for
So weird.
and then the other one is public. So if we're going to have any images or anything like that that we just want to kind of sit on the domain, you can do a public.
How did developers
Okay,
get any
so
work done before
I'm
Google?
going to start jumping into. Hey guys, when you have questions, just yell. You know, just stop me and ask.
I know they had to memorize everything.
Small group.
Sounds terrible.
So
They're probably in like open plan queue farms, and you couldn't get work
Let's
done.
start
every
with,
minute somebody
I
was
think they
popping
have
up. How
some-
do you do this?
Yeah.
demo template. You guys like either of these?
Uncheck use
For a
the
homepage?
system fixed with
yeah.
font. I don't see that.
Sure.
Which one? We got
That one's good.
standard, and you got a crazy parallax.
Also good.
Let's go with standard because I don't know. We got to find images and stuff. So
Do you have a view
Okay,
menu
so
in
we
the terminal?
got our
Because in
standard little
mine, I can
template
just
here.
go to view and then bigger.
I'm going to inspect this element.
Well,
I'm
it'll
going to
just be bigger
grab.
text.
All right, nav. So I'm just going to copy that
How's that?
code.
That's great.
And in our client, I'm going to create a new folder called.
That's right.
I don't know. This isn't the best way to set it up. You can kind of set it up. You can view views if you want to do like a client view sort of thing. Let's just do nav,
Kind of giant now.
and then we're going to create a new file in there, drop this in, and I'm also going to do template.
Let's get out
Save
of
this as nav.html.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So I'm going to put all this in a template.
All right, so,
just kind of for organization.
Meteor. So to make a meteor,
So you created a views.
the meteor
directly inside of the
creates, and we'll just call this.
Yeah, so you
CPK.
can do whatever you want. You can kind of structure this any way you want. I just
And what
created
it's
one
doing
called
now
nav.
is it's
I'm
setting
not
up
gonna
my
get that
folders.
detailed.
It's setting up my
If you
Mongo
like having
instance,
views
so
and then having
setting
all
up my
your views in
database
there,
for me.
great. If you like, you can just
and
call
I
it
can go
pages
into
or however
CPK
what kind of app
folder.
you're sort of building.
And I've got a CSS
You kind of
and
structure
HTML
your directory
and
however you
JavaScript.
want. What Meteor's going to do is it's going to wrap all
And
this
I'm gonna
stuff,
open this
minimize
up
it
here as
all.
well.
If you've got JavaScript elements, if you've got
So
if you're loading jQuery and all this other stuff, it'll load all that in the proper order, and then it'll serve it up, minified and collapsed into one
So
JavaScript
I've
file.
got my
one
.meteor
HTML
folder,
file.
which we can basically ignore. I've got CBK, CSS, HTML.
The
and
only thing, there's a
JavaScript.
couple special things like
And
client
if I
only runs on
run
the client,
Meteor
server only runs
right
on the
now,
server.
the command,
Public
it
is
just starts my
successful. You
node
just go to,
server. It
your
starts
website.com/image
my Mongo
name, and if it's in public,
DB
you'll pull it up.
instance. And then I've got my app running here on localhost 3000.
But outside of that, you can kind of just go to
And,
town however you like to structure your app. There's a lot of philosophies out there for Meteor. People have strong
Hold up, I'm
opinions
going to
about
this
how to structure it. Other
10.0.8
people
because
don't
that's
care.
my
Meteor is very
my
loose.
Ubuntu
You can
within,
really do
Windows,
things
so.
any kind of way
Okay,
you
so
want.
this is our
which has
app.
pros and cons.
Instantly creates
People really
it.
like structure. It's cleaner
Welcome
for
Meteor. Click me.
other people.
You can click on that, and you can see this.
But in this
spread
case,
them.
I'm just going to kind of create one called nav, and maybe we
Now,
can
what's
put all this
particularly
stuff in
cool
views.
about this is the only element that's changing here.
And then
is this
on
number
my
in the whole
CBKI
DOM.
HTML,
So when I change, it's not
in fact,
refreshing
let's-
everything. It's a lot like
move this
Angular in that
just
way, where
inside
it's
our client
just
folder here.
changing this element.
And I'm just going to call it index.
So if I came in and you did inspect element
that HTML
and made welcome to
this
Meteor
is
green, or I can still
And
click this and
then,
it's not refreshing that. It's
this
not
we can
changing
delete
that.
as well. We're not going to.
So when you have a more advanced app with lots of stuff going on, it's just very, very fast, because when you're
and in
making
here, instead of
changes,
calling
when you're updating
hello, I'm going
information,
to call
Yeah.
nav.
you're not changing the whole DOM. You're only changing
that.
the elements that need to be changed. Meteor handles all
I'm
that.
going to get rid of this.
So
I've got
take a
body
quick look at
nav,
the code
and I've
here.
got
So
my
we've
nav
got
template here.
nothing in our CSS.
And then we'll also come in and get our.
We've got one template, and we've got our
we
general
wanna
sort of
call
setup:
that kind
head,
of a-
head, body, body. This
What do they call
is
it?
handlebars. That's their. It's actually kind of space bars, is what they call it. But really, if you know handlebars or you look up handlebars, 99% the same.
You know, here's what I'll do. I'll create a
And
new
what
one.
this just says is, say we're going
a
to
new
call
folder
this,
called home.
grab a template called hello, and then down here in the same HTML file or any HTML
And we'll put-
file.
So our
in
nav
entire
may exist throughout the
Meteor
whole
folder,
thing, but here we're building our home page. So
that has
inside
template
home,
name equals hello. That's what it's going to grab and put in there. So it's kind of like
save this
PHP
as,
templating, but I find it much.
we'll
just,
call this home as
I don't
well.
know, much easier, much
Yeah.
faster. And then it just kind of grabs whatever code's in here and pops it in there. Then we have inside here
Postcard.
a handlebars helper.
Templates must
You
be
can see we
unique,
don't have
so
that,
you know we can do home
greater
postcard or something.
lesser
So
than.
kinda have your best.
We're just going to call this thing counter, and then in our JavaScript file, that's where we get in there
And
and start
inside
defining
this,
our
I'll also
helper.
add a template for.
So we only want to define it
so
on
we
our
got
client, and when we actually
that
get going, you're
one,
not going to
so
have to worry
we'll do
about
this
this
one.
stuff. We're going to set up a client folder and a server folder, so we don't have to worry about what's
So
running
down
on
here, I'm
what.
going to make another one
Being
called
Node,
home
JavaScript does
features.
run on the server as well. So, but we have this session variable.
And again, so here you know you
So
can break
session
this up
variables
into
are very
multiple
cool.
files
They're
if you like that
reactive
cleaner. You can keep
variables.
them all on one if
They
you
work just like any kind of
don't,
variable,
you know,
any kind
if
of
you like
global
it being
variable.
like this.
It's just at the reactive. So if you have a function tied to it,
And then
when that
let's
changes,
do our footer
that
here.
function is going to run again and update.
And maybe our
So what
footer
does
is
that
going to be on
mean?
every page. So
we're setting here
We
a
can make a
variable
new-
called counter, a session variable called counter, and we're just setting the default to 0. And then
Folder
our
for that
template
one.
called hello,
Footer.
we're going to have a helper called counter,
new
and you can see
file.
here in our template hello, here's our helper counter, and we want that to say it's going to be a function that just says return the session variable counter. So whatever that is, spit that out, and then when we spit it out, it just renders it into our HTML. We could change this to like return, you know,
Right.
you have this many.
Save that and save.
And if I save that, it's going to look silly, but
Save this, and then we need to assemble it
save
all.
that.
So on our index HTML, we'll have our nav.
hot code push
We'll
changes
have
it. So now you have you press this button.
home.
You press the button. You have this many 41 times.
We'll have our.
I guess I should really say
footer.
you have 41 times.
Save
Right?
that. Home.
So it just kind of drops
Oh,
whatever you
on
have,
home
whatever you're
postcodes.
returning, into that
On
slot.
home features, which we can, you know, I can come
And
up
again,
here
we
and
got that
make a new
session
template
variable.
called home.
So every time this session
And then
variable
there have
changes, this
home
function is going to rerun and it's going to re-return
Postcard.
whatever the new result is. So just
So
by
obviously
plugging
you
in
can
the
nest
session variable, we're making this whole
templates.
little section reactive. We're making counter reactive. Down here we've got our events. So events are a lot like JavaScript or jQuery of listen events, and
All right, let's
so they've
see.
got template.hello. So in our template called hello,
Okay, so
do this for
it's
the
assembled
events.
it all. We
So
don't
there's
have any
a click
CSS,
button,
but-
so we're kind of setting up a listener for
You know, we've got our logo
anything
part,
that's
we've
a
got our
button
star template.
inside this template.
So
and
let's
anytime
add
you
this
click on it,
materialize package.
run this function.
So Meteor really works awesome with
we're going to
packages.
set
So if I want to add
session
something
variable
like
counter,
jQuery or
and we're going to
a
set
router
it to
or
that value
some
plus one.
jQuery plugin that I like.
So that means
You can do
we're-
all that, and
that's
they
all
have
we're
this
doing. We're not
website
actually
called
changing the DOM
Atmosphere
here. We're
JS,
just
which-
changing our session
I don't know.
variable.
It's kind of cool. Kind of sucks
By changing our session variable, since it's
It's kind
reactive,
of slow, I guess.
it's automatically running
the
counter.
UI and
So every time I click on
to
this,
the detriment. But if I
it's
come in
setting
and
our
look for
session variable to
material,
+1,
or yeah, I
and
can
then
look for
changing
Bootstrap
that.
as well.
And since this is all
So you see we have
client
this
side, I can pull up my
materialize here.
console and actually check
Check session variable at a time. I can say session
So
get,
that's what we want to add.
Counter.
That's the materialize package.
and it's going to tell me 42.
And
I
the
click
way
it
you
again.
add them is you get this.
Now it's
There's
45.
always the sort of author,
And
and
then
that
the
is,
package.
like I said, so
The
that's
author may
reactive.
have
Every time
multiple
that
packages.
changes, anything connected to that is going to also rerun.
Come over here to my console. And open up a
So
new
if I had
tab.
something here that said, I could have a helper here.
Okay, yeah, like a helper class. And I'm just going to do meteor add class equals materialize. Actually, that's not inside the hello template.
And it goes and gets it for me. It handles all the
Here, I'll do
files. It
for,
puts them where they need to be.
This. I'll do.
If there's any dependencies, so if it
Style
requires
equals-
jQuery, it's going to get jQuery. It's going to
and
add
I'm going to
that
make a
for
reactive
us.
style.
It's going to handle all that sort of stuff. And now that that's
do
done, refreshes for us, pulls it in, and
color.
we've got a pretty decent looking site. That's probably responsive. Yeah. And look at that.
So what it's going to say is it's going to create this style, and whatever variable color is,
it's going to spit out.
and that's going to be reactive. So,
So,
up here I can also add a session default color, and let's save on, we want black by default, and then we're going to create a new helper here.
So that's how easy it is to
color.
add a package. We've got a nice little animations. So we got to click,
and we can say,
that sort of stuff.
we do a little logic like if. Let's do var count.
So really, it's
equals
just kind of straight HTML, which is really nice.
session
You can go into our
dot
templates
get
and we can change
counter.
Let's
say
go to
if
our
count
header and our
is
nav.
greater than
Change
10,
logo to
CBK.
What do we got now?
Coded kids.
That's not how you spell coded.
Let's do
Peter Modulus.
yeah.
Nav our links.
Let's return green.
And now all this materialized stuff is kind of, we have it all out of the box. So if we wanted to do
I'm sorry.
a form or something, you can use all their nice.
What are we doing?
These kind of cool little animations. We have all that.
Yeah, I guess we don't really need this.
Grab this HTML and drop
So
it
we're just
in.
going to say if count. So that's going to be reactive because of the counter. If count is greater
So you
than
guys
10,
with me so far? Is that
return
making
green.
sense?
Else,
Yep.
let's return.
All right. So
black.
we don't have a database at all, which we will want. It's there. We're just not using it. We also don't have any user accounts. So let's do user accounts first. So with Meteor, there's a couple different kinds of
let's save our
user
HTML.
accounts. There's the core package. Then there's passwords. So if we want people to have to sign
So
up
it's
with an email
green
address,
because it's
password,
45.
or a username and a
if
password. Then there's also a bunch of OAuth
counter
so there's
to
Twitter,
0,
and Gmail,
black.
and all this kind of stuff right out of the box, which is
Great.
pretty nice. So if you wanted to have single click,
Does that make sense?
Google sign on or
Yeah.
Facebook sign on, you could add that.
So that's really it's kind of on the surface. That's sort of the
And you add that the
superpower
same
of
way.
Meteor.
You add that other
Not only
package,
does it
sort of
really
set up your whole
do,
environment for you and
Meteor
take care of a whole ton of
add
stuff. It also
accounts,
makes everything in your DOM
password. I think.
very easy to make reactive, which means designing, doing really cool stuff with styles and animations, and
Maybe it's
making things super interactive becomes very, very easy. Kind of whatever you can think of, you can set it up pretty quick. I could have it apply a class, so like if I wanted, when you hit 10, I want everything to shake. Super easy. Just change that to, if greater than 10, return a class name, and on our helper, instead of style, we'll just do class equals this helper. So, and you can see it automatically added accounts base.
Add that class to it.
Email package for me. So it added all these things that I'm going to need. So that's kind of, getting to the heart of this stuff. You've got
Now
your
that we
head, you've got
have
your
it,
body, you've got templates.
we can go in and do.
And you just kind of build out from there. What we're going to do is I'm going to create a new folder called, let's
Client.
style it as well. So out of the box you could do,
And that's going to be where we put all of our
client
account
stuff. So
UI.
instead of having to worry about this,
We can take a look at what that looks like.
Is it client, is it not, kind of stuff. We're just going to have everything inside client that we want to run on the client side.
Shortcut for that.
We can also do a
Folder for server. And you can do a new folder for, so weird. And then the other one is public. So if we're going to have any images or anything like that we just want to kind of sit on the
And you can build your
domain,
own form and create
public.
your own callbacks, or we can use their form, which is
Okay,
what I'm
so
looking for here.
I'm gonna start jumping into. Hey guys, when you have questions, just yell. Just stop me and ask. There's not, it's a small group. So let's start
There
with.
you go.
I think they have some demo template. You guys like either of these? So for a homepage,
Back over to her.
Yeah.
code, and let's say which one we got.
That one's
They've been in the nav, and you got a crazy parallax. We want to
Also
do. Let's go standard because I don't know. We got to find
Nice.
images and stuff. So
So I'm adding in this
okay,
pre-made
so
template called
we got our
login
standard
buttons.
little template here. I'm gonna inspect
Now
this
let's see how it
element.
goes.
I'm gonna grab. So I've got
Nav.
some CSS issues
So I'm
here
just
with
gonna copy that code.
hidden. And in our
So
client,
let's-
I'm going to create a new folder
gonna
called, I don't know, this isn't the best way to set it up. You can kind of set it up, you can view views if you want to do like a client view sort of thing.
Hidden, so let's remove that for a minute.
Okay, so right out of the box,
Let's just
now
do
we have
nav.
the sign in. And if I, and then we're going to create a
Sign
file there,
in.
drop this in, and I'm also going to do, it's going to go user not found.
Template.
I can create an account.
So let's just
Call it
save
demo.
this as
nav.html. Stupid demo. So that's it. I've got user accounts signed in, and some very quick
So
things
I'm
you
gonna
can
put all
start
this in
doing
a
with
template.
that. Like
Just
let's say on our
organization.
home page here, we got Coded by Kids.
So you created a
we got
view
the section. Let's
directly
say
inside of the client.
yeah. So you can.
So I wanna
you can
say
do whatever
something
you
like,
want. You can kind of structure this any way you want.
if,
I just created one called nav. I'm not going to get that.
Basically, I want to say
detailed.
if they're
But
logged
if you like
in,
having views and then having all
welcome.
your views in there, great. If you like, you can just call it pages,
But only if
or,
they're logged in.
However, what kind of app you're sort
then
of
I can
building.
say if
You kind of structure your directory however you want. What Meteor's going to do is it's going to wrap all this stuff, minimize it all. If you've got JavaScript elements, if you've got if you're loading jQuery and all this other stuff, it'll load all that in the proper order, and then it'll serve it up.
if current user,
minified and collapsed into one
I can
JavaScript
do this.
file,
If current
one HTML
user-
file, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So
well,
the only thing, there's a
save
couple
that.
special things like client only runs on the client, server only runs on the server. Public is
So there we go.
successful.
We got
You
this
can
nice
just go to
welcome because I'm
your
logged in.
website.com/image name, and if it's in public, you'll pull it up.
Hidden.
But outside of that, you can kind of
And if
just
I
go
say
to town
sign
on
out-
however you like to structure your app.
Again, it's reactive.
There's a lot of that element changes. Philosophies
can do
out
that
there
with-
for
with
Meteor.
a lot of stuff.
People
You
have
can
strong
hide
opinions
and
about how to
show whole
structure it. Other people
sections.
don't care. Meteor is very loose. You can
very
really
easily just with
do
that
things
little command. Are they
any
signed
kind
in
of
or
way
they
you
not?
want, which
You
has
can do
pros
that
and
forever.
cons.
Again,
Some people
very
really like
reactive.
structure. It's cleaner.
So signing in isn't going to refresh the
People
whole page. It's
don't
going to
have to do all that. It's just.
But in
kinda-
this case,
I'm just going to kind of
let's say
create
you
one
had a
called
little, like,
nav, and maybe we could
stats
put all this
bar or
stuff in
something up
views.
here. that would show up.
And this in
And
itself
then
is
on my
reactive. This little
CBK
sign-in thing.
HTML,
When I
in
sign
fact,
in
let's
as demo, just move this just inside our client folder here.
Demo.
And I'm just going to
It
call it
changes.
index. My welcome goes back. So now we've got accounts.
HTML and
Out of the box,
This we
Meteor's
just
insecure
delete.
as well, so I can come in and I can say meteor.users.find, and then
fetch.
this we can delete as well.
Whoa.
We're not going to be doing that.
And
It's going to get me all the Meteor users. And in here, instead of calling hello, I'm going to call nav.
a lot for some reason. Get rid of
Oh,
that.
that's the wrong. There you go. And we're going to get rid of
There
this.
you go. Try again.
Meteor.users. So I've got body nav, and I've got my nav template here.
Dot fetch.
And then we'll also come in and get our sort of I don't know what we want to call that, kind of a what do they call it? Postcard? Yeah. All right. There we go. Now we got it. Meteors. Users. Find. Fetch. Here's what I'll do. I'll create a new one, a new folder called Home. You can also do
And we'll
Meteor.
put
So our nav
that.
may exist throughout the whole thing, but here we're building our home page.
User.
So inside Home,
function. I'm going to save this as so you can always at any time as you're writing code, you can always grab the current user. We'll call this home as well. Get their email address. You can have them add profile information, all that kind of stuff. So
Can you make it a little bigger?
yeah, TP postcard.
Thank you.
Template must be unique, so we could do a home postcard something. Just to kind of hedge your bets. So again, that's just meteor.user, calls that in, meteor.users. And .find.fetch is just a pretty common inside this, I'll also add a template just kind of looking for, you're just saying find all those and fetch. And if we wanted to say like find only that one, so users with the name, Bob. That's how you do that. I'm going to make another one called home features. So moving forward here, so is that making sense? And again, so here you could break this up. So right now you've got this whole, if you like that cleaner, you've got basically all on one site. That's better, if you like it kind of being like this.
Sorry, I had a quick question. Can you show me
And then let's do our footer here. Yeah.
Current user. Can you show me the syntax?
And maybe our footer is going to be on every page.
Of an if else. I'm trying to extrapolate from what you have here.
Definitely. So if I wanted to say, let's say I wanted to say welcome. So if current user, let's say welcome. And then I can say file else, just like that. Hi, new person. And then I close it. And then that way, so that'll do the if else. And if you want to do sort of nested if else's, you just have to kind of recreate. You have to go like if current user, then you have to go if if something else. You can nest and nest and nest, or you could say else, and then in here say this, and then we need to assemble it all. So on our next HTML, we'll have our nav. We'll have our home.
What are those two brackets for? Like on 13, what's that bracket for?
We'll have our footer. This is a typo. Save that.
Glad I didn't understand it then.
Home postcards. Yeah. So the handlebars are just saying the HTML, which we can, I can funny or fancy. Come up here and make. And you can kind of create your own. So this is just searching for true and false. So I could also say like postcard. If new user, I could call this if new user. So obviously you can nest, and then I can create a helper file for that in a JavaScript. For what new user means. I could say new user, check if they're logged in and check if the sign up date was less than a month ago. This does anything. And return the sign up date was less than a month ago. It's simple at all. We don't have any CSS, but we've got our logo part, we've got our starter template. So you can just really start getting. So let's add this materialized package. So Meteor really works awesome with packages. So if I want to add something like jQuery or a router or some jQuery plugin that I like. Starter template. You can do all that, and they have this website called Atmosphere.js. I think to note about this, I don't know, it's kind of cool. This all gets pushed to the client, so you don't want to put slow. I guess is why they kind of went crazy with secure information in this sort of format. Detriment. But if I come in and look for material, somebody could still dig in. Or, I can look for Bootstrap as well. I mean, it's not easy. So you see, we have it doesn't get materialized, but if you can dig into like the source stuff and so really dissect it, and it's some way in the JavaScript materialize package that content. And the way there's other ways to handle that. Get this information. There's always the for informal stuff, and then the package. You can do that. So authors may have multiple packages.
Thank you.
Come over here to my console. I'm going to open up a new tab.
Hey, Trevor, for that, for the login button itself, what did you use that again?
And I'm going to do Meteor, Meteor accounts, materialize. So that's accounts UI, and it goes and gets it for me. It handles all the files, it puts them where they need to be. If there's any dependencies, so if it requires jQuery, it's going to get jQuery. I'll show you now real quick. Like, let's say we wanted people to be able to log into all that sort of stuff. So I can say Meteor add accounts, refreshes for us, pulls it in, and we've got a pretty decent looking site. That's probably responsive. Yeah. Added it, and look at that. And as soon as it adds, it's going to refresh. So, and maybe it's because we don't have any navs. So now you can see we have this sign in Google.
And you don't have to do anything with OAuth, like apart from that?
So
that's how easy it is
to
add a package.
when you
We've
push
got
it
a nice
live,
little,
it's gonna the first time you run it, it's
animations.
gonna have you connected to your API.
So we got to click. You know, we've got.
But you can see
All that
here,
sort of
so I'm
stuff.
signed in with Google. I'll sign in with Trevor Geis. And I didn't
So,
set up my
really,
API,
it's just
didn't come
kind of
back.
straight HTML, which is really nice. You can go
But
into
that's
our
really,
templates and we
you
can
set it up
change,
once, you're good to go. It's really sweet. I want to add
let's
Twitter to
see,
that.
let's
I
go
will.
our
I can just go in
header,
and add
our
it.
nav, change the logo.
Let's
to
say I don't want people to be able to sign in with a
Okay.
password anymore.
coded.
I can go in and
Kids.
say media remove
Coded.
accounts password.
Nav our links.
And now all this materialized
Now
stuff
my
is
sign in Google.
kind of, we have it all
there.
out of the box. So if we wanted to do a form
add
or
it back
something,
in, and I'm also going to add
you
in.
can use all their nice like these
if I
little
come over to
these kind of cool
here.
little animations. We have all that. We just kind of
There's this
grabbed
user
this
accounts
HTML and dropped it in.
materialize. I think that's going to help us.
So are you guys
look cool.
with me so far? Does
Let's
that
do
make
meteor,
Yep.
add
All right.
user
So
accounts.
we don't have a database at all.
Materialize.
And the difference
Which
between
we
something
will
like
want. I mean, it's there. We're just
user
not
accounts
using it.
materialize and
We
accounts
also don't have
password
any
accounts
user
password
accounts, so
is
um,
core.
Let's
So
do
that's
user
the
accounts
Meteor
first.
team built it and shipped it, and it's part of the core
So
package.
with Meteor,
add
there's
There's a couple different kinds of user accounts
created by
There's
the community.
the core package, so anybody can go and create
Then
a package. It's
there's
actually quite
passwords,
easy to
so if
create
we want
a
people to have
package.
to sign up with an email
So
address.
people are out there
password, or
creating
usernames
usernames
for
for every add-on.
Then there's also a
and-
bunch of OAuth
time,
stuff.
date
So
picker,
there's, like,
and
Twitter, and
moment,
Gmail,
and that kind
and
of
all this
stuff
kind of
that
stuff
you might
right
want
out
to
of
be
the
using,
box.
which is pretty nice. So if you wanted to have like single-click Google sign-on or
Let's see if this
Facebook
Oh, you know what?
sign-on,
And let's also.
you could add that.
I'm going to remove. The
And you add that
accounts
the same
UI.
way we added that other
So
package.
we want to do Meteor add accounts.
So just checking
password, I think.
this is pretty powerful.
Nope.
I think we come in and see the most common ones. So Jasmine is for
let's see.
testing, Autoform,
Accounts.
high charts, D3, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, accounts dash password.
There's a lot of ones for talking to like Amazon S3 and stuff. So if you want to save your images and all that stuff up there, that's done pretty easy. Bootstrap, tons
So
of
you can see it
Bootstrap automatically added accounts base for me, email package for me. So it added all these things that I'm going to need. Now that we have it, we can go in and do. Let's see. Oh, you know what? So that package I just added.
Accounts.
If I look up here, I see it.
You know what?
It added Iron Router.
Style it as well. So out of the box, you could do.
So Iron Controller, Iron Core.
Accounts
That's all
UI.
Iron Router. Iron Router is the most popular
We can
router.
take a look at what that looks like.
It's quite good. It's really well developed. And they use it, so they probably send you to a
there's
sign-in
a
page or something like that rather than a drop-down.
Shortcut for that.
So this is telling me, Iron Router is telling me, like, look, you don't have any routes set up. So let's take a look at Iron Router real quick. Does that sound good? You guys okay on time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because right now we've got a page, but we can't go anywhere. Anything's just gonna sit there. So, and you
Here's
can
the
build your own
Iron
form and create your
Git
own
page,
callbacks,
or we can use their
with a couple kind of
deep.
defaults. So
What I'm looking for here.
let me see how they set up their pull their guide. There you go. There's one I think you just put yield.
So, let's head back over to our code and let's say.
So
Maybe in
the
the
big difference
nav.
here is instead of all this, we can put yield. Now we can also do yield the navigation up there, yield
This.
In fact, let's do that.
So I'm adding in this
Pre-made template called login buttons.
to yields.
Let's see how that goes. So I've got some CSS issues here with a hidden. So let's we'll just kind of cheat right here.
So you kind of build a little bit of a template here. So this is always going to yield the nav. This
Alright,
is
so
always
right
gonna
out of
yield
the
footer.
box,
And then we have
the
the
middle is
sign
going to
in.
yield the dynamic stuff.
And if I
go to a new page,
try to sign in,
that's going to load new stuff there. And then here I can create
user not found,
a new file or a new folder.
I can create an account, router demo, router.js. You can call it anything you want. Create an account.
And then in
demo.
here we're going to do.
So that's it. I've got user accounts signed in, and some very quick things you can start doing with that. Like let's say on our home page here, we've got coded by kids. Let's get to we got the section. Let's say I want to say something like if basically I want to say if they're logged in, say welcome, but only if they're logged in. Then I can say if. So we're just going to start setting up a route. So we'll do two. We'll do just sort of the slash. So it's going to default. We're going to render home. So you just put in the template name that you want to render. So here we can also say
if current user.
About, let's say.
So we can do this. If current user.
Well, and then we also want to specify the
different yields.
So there we go. I've got this nice welcome because I'm logged in. Still have to remove that hidden. And if I say sign out, again, it's reactive. Only that element changes. So you can do that with a lot of stuff. You can hide and show whole sections. You know, very easily just with that little command. Are they signed in? Are they not? So I'm going to say this render. Very reactive. So signing in isn't going to refresh. And you can also set up kind of like do all that. It's just kind of global template. Let's say you had a little like stats bar or something up here. And we'll also do that would show up. And this in itself is reactive. This little sign in thing. So when I sign in as demo, we'll do that on this.
All right. So let's see if this works.
See, it changes. My welcome goes back. You guys follow that? So now we've got accounts.
Yeah, that one file, is it supposed to be footer?
Out of the box, Meteor's insecure as well, so I can come in and I can say meteor.users.find.fetch. Whoa, yield footer. Thank you. It's going to get me all the Meteor users.
Okay, so
is a lot for some reason.
So we yielded the main part. We didn't yield our header or the footer.
There you go. Try it again. Meteor.users.find
footer
fetch. Meteor.users to navs. What the hell? I wonder if I'm in the wrong. Yeah. All right. There we go. Now we got it. Meteor users find fetch. Still with 1 million users. You can also do Meteor.
Well, I'm not going to worry about
that. User.
It's just some semantic thing I'm missing. I'm just going to put these
function. So you can always, at any time as you're writing code, you can always grab the current user, get their email address. You can have them add profile information, all that kind of stuff. So
can you make it a little bigger?
Router. Just
nuke these.
Thank you.
Sure. So again, that's just meteor.user, calls that in, meteor.users. And .find.fetch is just a pretty common Mongo query. So just kind of looking for, you're just saying find all those and fetch. And if we wanted to say like find only users with the name, Bob.
There we go.
That's how you can do that.
So moving forward here.
So is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
So right now you've got this whole, you've got basically a front-end site that's got our nice little, yeah?
Sorry, I had a quick question. Can you show me, you know how you have the if for welcome?
Yeah.
Current user. Can you show me the syntax of an if-else? I'm trying to extrapolate from what you have here.
Definitely. So if I wanted to say, like let's say I wanted to say welcome, so if current user, let's say welcome, then I can say
And
else.
I'm also going to remove from our nav the login buttons thing here.
Hi, new person. And then I close it.
You know, I think that materialized thing has its own.
And then that way, so that'll do the if else. And if you want to do sort of nested if else's, you just have to kind of recreate. You have to go like if current user, then you also go if, you know, if something else, you can nest and nest and nest. Or you can say else, and then in here say if just signed on today or whatever.
You can tell the different kind of ways they set this up.
What are those two brackets for? Like on 13, what's that bracket for?
And I think they have a material.
This is a typo.
Accounts. Yeah, at form.
Glad I didn't understand it then.
Yeah. Yeah, so the handlebars are just saying to the HTML, you know, this is something funny or fancy. And you can kind of create your own. So this just searches for a true and false. So I could also say, like,
yeah, I'm not really sure what happened.
If new user, I could call this if new user. And then I could create a helper file for that in a JavaScript for what new user means. I could say new user, you know, check if they're logged in and check if the sign up date was less than, you know, a month ago. And return the sign up date was less than a month ago. And that's how they're going to return true or false.
Here's we are. That's a lot to get this, but yeah. Now we've got our styled form.
So you can just really start getting kind of creative with it.
And I just dropped it in the middle here.
Let's see if
create
this
a
works.
sign up page.
Really got to change
So
those.
instead of having it there, I'm going to create a new.
Alright, so if I sign out. Hi, new person. Start. So that's the if else.
File.
A thing to note about this. This all gets pushed to the client, so you don't want to put like secure information in this
and
format.
We're going to create a template called.
Because somebody could still dig in. I mean, it's not easy.
In here,
you know, it doesn't get pushed here,
we're
but if you can dig into
form, which is
source stuff and like really
that's a shortcut
dissect it, and it's some way it's in the
thing
JavaScript
we're using.
That content. So there's other ways to handle that.
And then in our router, instead of about,
for informal
do,
stuff, it's great. You can do that really quick.
Sign in, and we're going to render accounts.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what we called it.
Hey, Trevor, for that, for the login button itself, what did you use for that again?
So that's I use the Meteor accounts. So that's accounts UI.
Come up here and I go to sign in,
and so accounts password.
So I rendered that. Very nice.
The setting up a password.
Maybe we should make it a little prettier.
And I'll show you now real quick. Like let's say we wanted people to be able to log in with Google. So I can say Meteor add accounts Google.
Grab this stuff here.
Added it. And as soon as it adds, it's going to refresh. And if you can see we have this sign in.
Wanted to do this right, I'd make those navigation and the footer
And
things
you don't
that were
have to do
present,
anything
so
with
they'd be up
OAuth,
there.
like a park.
Then I go in and style this however
So
I
you
want,
do
but
it
I've
the
got to
first
sign
time.
And let's say we want to be able to get there.
Push
so
it live. It's gonna the first time you run it, it's gonna have you
sign
connected
in,
to your
and let's put an action to
your
it.
API.
So home.
But you can see here. So I'm signing with Google. I'll sign in with Trevor Geis.
Get started. This one.
And I didn't set up my API, so it didn't come back.
Sign in.
But that's really, I mean, it's you set it up once.
And here's how we're going to make this thing
really
active.
Sweet.
So instead of actually
Twitter
being
to that,
a link,
I will. I can just go in and add it. Let's say I don't
usually
want
use
people to be able to sign up
to
with a password
my sort
anymore.
of triggers. You can do it
I
a lot
can
of different
go
ways,
in
but I'm
and
going to say like
Meteor remove.
give this a sign-in class.
Accounts
And
password.
then in my home directory, I'm going to create another file called home.js. And then here I'm going to do template .home
So now I have my sign in Google up there.
And I'm going to
add it back in, and I'm also going to add in
login
to here. There's this user accounts materialize.
Sound right to me. What,
events. I think that's going to help us kind of
There
look
we go.
cool. So let's do Meteor add.
So when I click on that,
User accounts.
if you click on something with a class login inside this template, we're going
And the
to
difference
do,
between something like
you do router,
user accounts
go,
materialize and accounts password is accounts password.
Accounts.
is
So we'll just send this to.
So that's the Meteor team built it and shipped it, and it's part of the core package. You can add those. These are created by the community. So anybody can go and create a package. It's actually quite easy to create a package. So people are out there creating packages for every add-on and time, date picker, and moment, and that kind of stuff that you might want to be using.
And we may also want to come in here and say it's past the event in, and E for event.
Oh, you know what? And let's also.
So that'll prevent the page.
I'm going to remove
the
account
UI
if we wanted to.
so it doesn't get in the way. And I'm also going to do a console.log clicked.
So just checking out,
Kind of test it.
This
make
is
sure I'm actually doing this thing
pretty
right.
powerful.
I think we come in and see
See the
refreshing.
most common ones. So Jasmine is for testing, Autoform, high charts, D3, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of ones for talking to like Amazon S3 and stuff. So
Iron layout.
if you want to save your images and all that stuff up there.
Alright, so I'm clicking and it's not doing anything. Did I not?
Bootstrap,
Save it?
tons of Bootstrap stuff.
Let's sign in there. Sign in.
I think you called it login in the file. Click.login.
Yep, sure did. Thank you.
Why? Oh, you know what? So that package I just added, if I look up here, I see it added Iron Router for me. So Iron Controller, Iron Core, that's all Iron Router. Iron Router is the most popular router. It's quite good. It's really well developed.
Yes, this route.
And they use it, so they probably send you to a sign-in page or something like that rather than a drop-down.
Oh, I guess let's just point it here.
So this is telling me, Iron Router is telling me, like, look, you don't have any routes set up. So let's take a look at Iron Router real quick. Does that sound good? You guys okay on time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because right now
Here
we've
we
got
go.
a page,
It's gonna be exciting.
but we can't go anywhere. Anything's just gonna sit there. So look at the Iron Router get page,
Very
get
exciting.
with a couple kind of defaults. So
Yeah, that's the idea. So if we're doing this right, we change,
there.
we pull out the nav and the footer and make them sit on the right place. Make them ever present throughout these templates so that they would stay. And if we did that, only this middle part would re-render as we're navigating through pages. So it's a very, very fast experience.
There's one
Going through.
I think you just put yield in the. Yeah.
So that's about an hour. Are you guys cooked? Is that
So
pretty good?
the big
You
difference
guys wanna
here is
look
instead
at
of the database
all
stuff,
this,
you let me know.
Put yield. Now we can
I'd
also
like
do
to
like
put it in
yield,
stuff,
the
so
navigation
fine.
up there, yield.
Okay.
In fact,
I mean,
let's
if
do
you
that.
have time, Trevor, I'd love to look at the database
Yields.
stuff.
Okay, let's do it.
Thanks, Trevor, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So let's do. All right. So this is how we add a collection. So you kind of build a little bit over, and we're going to add this collection to
yield the nav,
our
always going to yield the footer.
client side.
And this one in the
and
middle
our
is going to
server
yield
side.
the
So to do
dynamic
that, we just
stuff.
make sure we
When
don't
we go
put
to
it
a
in
new
a client
page.
or server folder.
That's
So I'm going to create a new file.
and in here I can create
Call it
a new
collection,
file or a new folder.
JS.
Call it router.
And inside there,
we just
router.js,
declare
call it anything you want.
I had it here. And then in here we're going to do. Let's see.
Use this nice little. So let's call it students. And then we're going to say we're going to have a new Mongo collection called students.
Let's get to this.
And this will automatically refresh. And again, by default, it's insecure and auto publishes on. What that means is all of the data gets pushed to the client. Obviously, we won't really want that in production. In production, we'll say things
We're
like
just going to start setting up a route.
we'll set up.
We'll do two. We'll do
publish
sort of
and
a slash,
subscribe relationship.
default.
So we will say to the server,
We're going to render home.
check if the person's logged in.
So you just put in the template name that you want to
if
render.
they're a student, then push all their
so
student
here we
info.
can also say.
Or if they're an admin, push
about,
everything.
let's
Or
say,
if they're just
and
an
we'll render an
instructor,
about
then just
template.
push the stuff that has their name on it. So that only the data
And we
that
also
they
want to
should be
specify
able to see and edit is getting pushed to them. different yields.
But for right now, by default, and it's really nice for building apps quickly, everything just gets pushed. So from my point of view, I can just on the client side edit all the data. So so I come in and I'd normally worry about that little error, but just we're going through this quite quickly. So now we've added this students, and you can see there it is. And if I say find.fetch on it,
so what else can
I
I say?
get
This dot render.
Oh, if I say
Nav.
and
you can also set up
empty.
kind of like
So this is our database.
templates
I'm just
in a way.
kind of saying, hey, in that students collection, get me all the documents.
And we'll also
And there's none.
do
And so another thing to point out here, I'm doing this from
footer.
the client. I'm just doing this from the
We'll do that on
inspector tool
this.
here. So the way Meteor
Alright,
works
so
is
let's
it
see
has
if this
two
works.
databases. It's got your Mongo, and it's got your mini Mongo.
You guys follow that?
And mini
Yeah, and that one file,
Mongo
is it supposed
sits
to be
on
footer,
just sort of sits
and
on the
lining?
client. When you load my website,
The way
I
you
load
just
up this
were.
mini Mongo. And that's why it's so fast, is because when I write data, I write it first in mini Mongo,
Thank you.
and then the DOM reflects that change.
Let's
And
see.
then in the back, behind that, using
Okay,
DDP,
so-
it runs to the server and says, "Hey, is that legit?
So
Are
we
this- is this
yielded
person allowed
the
to
main
change this
part. We
data,
didn't
and
yield
is
our
this
header
cool?"
or the footer.
And as long as it's allowed, the
let's
client
do
notices
that.
nothing. It's just a super fast transaction.
Footer.
If the server says, "Whoa, that person's not actually allowed to change that," it'll just very like a blink of an eye, it'll toggle back to the correct data. So there's this they kind of cheat a little bit. They sort of do this sort of data masking, so it's incredibly fast. It also means we can write and pull and review things right from the client code. We don't have to go to the server each time, have the server do some work, and send data back to us. We just manipulate that data right on the client, which is what makes Meteor
All right. Well, I'm not going to worry
so
about that.
crazy fast. So let's add some data. So
It's
let's
just some
do
semantic thing I'm missing.
students.insert.
I'm just going to put these, and inside of this, guys,
We're going to add like name is in here, Bob Smith, and
router
score is 123 or 123, and attendance is do new date. How about? So it'll be an array of dates of every time they've attended. And that gives us the unique identifier there. Now if I say students.find.fetch, we've got an object. There we go. We've got their name, their score, and every time they have attended, we'll put a new date in there. Or you could go so far as to say like location and all that kind of jazz. We can insert another one. Sally May, score is 332, and boom. So now when I do a find fetch, I've got both of them, and I'm just in the database now. I'm just looking at Mongo, and as you can see, it's not like SQL where I have to go in and specify what the data is going to look like. I can change this. I can add a new element to it. So you can have this, especially for prototyping and building fast. It's
from
beautiful.
our
So I don't know what
nav
my data is
the
going to look like.
login
Building
buttons
it.
thing here.
It might change. Now down the line, if you lock it down
I
and you
think
don't
that
want people to mess with it, you
materialize
can add a
thing
package that'll
has its own
enforce what data looks like if you want, schemas, but you don't have to out of the box. Now I can also do find one, and it's just going to grab the first one, pull it back. I can also do find one and specify like name is Sally May. You can see all the different kind of ways they. And it's just going to go get me Sally May.
Nice.
Or I can say.
And I think they have a material.
Score is
counts.
yeah at forms.
So they
Greater
use.
than or equal to. I gotta do it like this. Greater than or equal to 200. Nope.
Sylvester, there's two of you.
So
Yeah,
that will
I'm
return
sure
everybody whose score. That'll be turned to one person.
I was
But
wondering.
if I just do find and then dot fetch, what the hell?
It confirms my suspicions that you do more than one person can do.
Okay. It'll return everybody. It'll return an array of everybody whose score is greater than. Okay. So And there's tons of modifiers you can do with that.
That's
You
a lot
know,
to get this,
but you can do it
now
by
we've got
date,
our
greater
style
than, less
form.
than. This is greater than or equal to.
And I just dropped it in the middle here. Let's
When I'm
create a
coding,
sign-up
I
page.
usually have a couple things
So instead of
open.
having it there,
If
I'm going to create
doing
a
router
new,
stuff. I'll keep the Iron Router docs open. I'm always have my Meteor docs open.
folder called
If I'm
sign up.
using Bootstrap or if I was using Material,
Yeah,
I'd keep this open
file.
with the front end stuff. I would keep
HTML.
I'd keep MongoDB open. There's
And
lots of
we're
like
gonna create a
ands
template
and
called
ors and and I don't memorize any of it. I just look it up again.
And in here, we're going to use this
You can
app
also
form,
remove,
which is
students are removed. So we're doing all this from the
that's a
terminal
shortcode
right
from
now.
that
But let's start using it
thing
we're
we're
here.
using.
So let's
So
do
save that, and then
our
in
home.
our router,
And we'll list our
instead of
students on our
let's
home
do,
page.
Those records are persisted, the
Sign
ones you
in.
did from the Google
and
console.
we're going to render accounts.
Yep. Yeah, so it's not only writing it to our local mini Mongo, it's also writing it to our actual Mongo. So if you guys were, if I publish this, we could all be on the same page. As those record changes, your
So come up
page
here
would
and
be
go to
reflected
sign
instantly
in.
as well. So if scores were going up and down,
So
if we had like a
rendered that, very
leaderboard,
nice.
you could see all that.
Maybe we should make
Right.
it a little prettier.
Everyone sees that live, reactive.
with let's see.
So let's come in here and let's grab
This stuff here.
and materialize
Navbar.
grid colors. Table. Let's grab a table. So I'm gonna grab this table code. Come in here and if I wanted to do this right, I'd make those navigation and the footer things.
So after sign in,
we're just going to drop
then
this
I go
table
in and
here.
style this however I want. But
So
I've
we're
got
in our
sign
home
in.
postcard template, and let's say we want to be able to
And
get
get
this
there, so
table, and I'm going
instead
to
of
say
get started,
name
we'll
is
change
going
that
to
button to
be
say sign in.
name, and let's put an action to it. And so this is kind of an interesting thing. So
home,
we've got this table. This is the table head. Table body is we've got these different rows.
There you go.
We only need one row,
So let's say.
and I'm going to come in
Sign
here and I'm
in.
going to say with each.
And here's how we're going to make this thing
student.
accurate.
So instead of actually being a link, so I'm saying with each student, I usually use classes to be my sort of
want to
triggers.
do that.
You can do it a lot of different ways, but I'm going to say like
So for each student,
give this a
create this
sign-in
code.
class. And then in my home directory,
And
I'm
in
gonna
doing
create
so,
another
not only is
file
this going to iterate over this, and
called
for every
home.js.
entry of student, it's going to put a
and
new
then here I'm
row.
going to do template.
It's also going to assign a data
home,
context to all of this.
dots.
So what that means is I'm saying, I'm going to
actions.
define what student is, and student's going to be an array of it's going to be our collection.
And I'm going to do.
And within there, so for each document in that collection,
log
do
in.
this, and for each one of these, if I say something like name,
Actions
it's just going to grab that document's name out of the gate. Now I can also make it more helpful to say like get the name, but also capitalize it, or get the name and
So
add
when I
something
click on that,
to it, or
we're-
do a
if you
check
click
on it.
on something with a class login inside.
So let's
the
do
template,
name, let's do date,
We're going to just do
and let's do
score
score.
router.go accounts. So we'll just send us
And
to
let's do
the
name,
date.
Why don't we like this?
Score.
Assignment or function.
Now, if I just save this, it's not going to be impressive. It's probably going to do nothing.
Home.events.
Yeah, so we've got no fields in there because it doesn't know what student is. But if I come into my
There you go.
home.js and I say
Okay, let's give that a shot.
what is this? This is.
And we may also want to come in here and
home
say
postcard. Pass the event in and
home
prevent
postcard
default
helpers.
So that'll prevent the page from actually. And I'm going to create one for
Do a whole
student.
refresh.
The student
Go
is
on
going to
to.
be, and I'm also going to do
I'm going to say return
console.log.
students
Clicked. To kind of test it, make sure I'm actually doing this in
find.
.fetch.
And
So I'm just saying, go get all the
that's
students and
refreshing.
return all that. In fact, don't even have to fetch it. I can just say find,
Yep.
and that returns a cursor, which I don't really understand, but it's like not like the document, but it's a reference to the document. If I save that,
Iron layout.
there are students.
All right, so I'm clicking and it's not
dates.
doing anything. Did I not
Let's find out why my date isn't showing.
save it? Let's sign in there. Sign in.
I think you called it login in the file. Click that login.
Right thing.
Yep, sure did.
Thank you.
Oh, because I called it attendance. So maybe I could do. So in home, let's do, instead of date, let's do last date. A route named accounts. Let's make sure. And for date here, we're going to create a helper. Router.js. This route sign in. Date. Under accounts. And I'm going to say, I guess, here, let's just point it here. Dates equals this. So I've got a data context. So when I say this, I'm talking about the data there. And I'm going to say, all right. Attendance, right? That's going to be exciting. Double check. Attendance. Okay. And then I'm going to also return. Very exciting. Dates.
Leave.
Yeah. And I just want to return the last one.
So we're doing this right. We
change.
So we pull out the nav and the footer.
Dates.
Make them sit
length.
On the right place.
I think
make them ever present throughout these templates, so that they would stay. And if we did that, only this middle part would re-render as we're navigating through pages.
Taking the data and modifying
very, very fast.
That did not
experience.
Let's find out why.
Yeah, you go -1 because it's 0 indexed. So instead of dates.last,
that's about an hour.
-1.
Are you guys cooked? Is that pretty good? Do you guys want to look at the database stuff?
How do we get to 0?
I'd like to look at the database stuff at some point.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I mean,
you're right.
If you have time, Trevor, I mean, I'm working with some of the database stuff.
Okay, let's do it.
Thanks, Trevor, by the way. Date
in
the template. Is that
no problem?
Instead of dates?
Let's do. So you see, I'm calling it date here.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So in here, I'm just declaring a local variable.
We add a collection. So there we go. So we got the last date. We come over and we're going to add this collection to
and let's say maybe this is a leaderboard, so I want to know
client side and our server side. So to do that, we just make sure we don't put it in a client or server folder. So I'm going to create a new file. Call it collections.js. So we can add, and inside there, find, and I want to find everybody. Declare, and then I also want to sort. Use this nice by. So let's call it students. We call that score, right? Yeah. So it's going to. And we're going to say we're going to have a new Mongo collection called students. So I want to sort it by score. Let's see if that works. And this will automatically refresh. There we go. And again, by default, when I say this is it's insecure and auto-published to server. What that means is all of the data gets pushed to the client. And we can obviously we won't really want that in production. In production, we will say things like Sally June. We'll set up, and let's say Sally June publish and subscribe relationship. So we will say to the server, so she's going to be in the middle. Check if the person's logged in. Boom, there's Sally June. If they're a student, and maybe we want to say all their students. Or if they're an admin, push everything. Or if they're just an instructor, then just push the stuff that has their name on it. And I can either grab only the data that they should be able to see and edit that ID, or I can say like students.update. But for right now, by default, and it's really nice for building apps quickly, everything just gets pushed. So from my point of view, I can just on the client side edit all the data. So score to so if I come in and I normally I'd worry about that little error, but just we're going through this quite quickly. Not only is the score update, now we've added this students. We also changed, and you can see there it is, the order instantly. And if I say find, now the same as before, we could style these. Say if you're the leader, then make it blue or find.fetch, whatever we want. So this is our this is our database. So now we have a database. In that students collection, get me all the documents. And then if we want to add. So another thing to point out here, I'm doing this from let's go in the client. I'm just doing this from make it so we can actually interact with the database. So the way Meteor works is it has two databases. It's got your Mongo, we're going to add it's got your Mini Mongo button here, and Mini Mongo sits on the client. When you load my website, I load up this Mini Mongo. Let's find out. And that's why it's so fast, is because when I write data, I write it first to Mini Mongo, and then the DOM reflects that change. And then in the back behind that, using DDP, it runs to the server and says, "Hey, is that legit? Is this person allowed to change this data? And is this cool?" And as long as it's allowed, the client notices nothing. It's just a super fast transaction. If the server says, "Whoa, that person's not actually allowed to change that," it'll just very, like a blink of an eye, it'll toggle back to the correct data. So there's this they kind of cheat a little bit. They sort of do this sort of data masking, so it's incredibly fast.
And here I'm going to add
it also means we can write and pull and
to me it's like a helper
things
class
right from the client code. We don't have to
go
go to the server each time, have the server do some work, and send data back.
I don't know if that's the best way to do it.
We just manipulate that
so you
data
already
right on the
client,
client, which is what makes Meteor
now they're not going to do anything.
Crazy fast. So let's add some data. So let's do
wave effect.
Students.insert.
So let's make it do something. So
and
insert
on
JS.
We're going to add
in our
name
postcard template.
Bob Smith.
Grab this.
And score is
events
1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3. Click and attendance is.
So when you click, there's also.
Remember, we have that data array of dates of every time they've attended.
So it knows when I click on this, the data context,
and that gives us
is
the
Sally
unique
June's
identifier there. Now, if I say students.find.fetch, we've got.
So if I say something like console,
we got their name, their score,
log,
and this. Every time they have attended, we'll put a new.
Which I do all the time, by the way, to kind of like.
Or you could go so far as to say like location.
I'm kind of sloppy, so I kind of lose where I am. And I'll just console.log
we can
this.
Insert another one.
Sally May. If I click on that. There's Sally June,
3, 2,
there's Sally May,
and
there's Bob Smith.
So now when I do a find
fetch, so now what do we want to do?
I got both of them, and I'm just in the database now. I'm just looking at Mongo, and as you can see, it's not like
students
SQL where I have to go in and specify what the data is going to look like. I can change this. I can add a new element to it. I can
so you can have this,
ID. Especially for prototyping and building fast, it's beautiful because I don't know what my data is going to look like. I'm building the thing. It might change. Now down the line, if you lock it down and you don't want people to mess with it, you can add a package that'll enforce what data looks like if you want schemas
plus 10,
but you don't have to out of the box. Now I can also do find one, and it's just going to pull. We're just going to grab the first one, pull it back.
And that should be good. If we were really doing this kind of fancy, we'd probably set this to self, just so we don't lose this, but I think it'll work just fine for now.
Sally May. And it's just going to go get Sally May. Or I can say,
and you can see, so if I add,
score
jumped up there.
If
I add this,
bam,
she jumps up.
Greater than or equal to.
So you see it's automatically sorting.
I gotta do it like this.
I get 10 points. Again, this is the only part that's
200.
dynamic.
Nope. What did I do wrong?
Unless
that will return everybody who's up, or that'll be turned
someone
to
advances,
one person.
Then those two are changing. But even the whole list doesn't change. Only those two moving changes are rebuilt.
So that's the idea. So you can pull the data in from the database. You can manipulate it very easily.
Okay.
You can delete
it'll return
people,
everybody.
It'll return an array of everybody whose score is greater than
the students dot. And there's tons of modifiers you can do with that.
Remove.
You can do it by date, greater than, less than.
Just drop in their ID.
This is greater than or equal to. Now they're gone. So when I'm coding, I usually have a couple things.
Underscore is a good thing to learn
router stuff.
I'll keep the Iron Router docs open.
But it kind of makes a lot of this.
I'm always have my Meteor docs open
much faster. If I'm using Bootstrap or if I was using Material, I'd keep this open if I was doing front-end stuff.
Default thing.
I would keep MongoDB open.
That's
there's
kind of
lots
the heart of
like
it. So ands and ors and
I can show
I don't
you.
memorize any of it. I just look it up again.
The last thing I'll do here is show you.
Students are removed. So we're doing all this from the terminal right now. But let's start using it here.
The living example, like a complex one.
Let's do. Let's go to our home, and we'll list our students on our homepage. So this is my company's
Those records
code.
are persisted, the ones you did from the Google console?
And it's not. So it's not only
so this is like
running
much
it
in
to our
development, so we got
local
lots of,
mini
like,
Mongo. It's
random
also running it
files,
to our
different places
actual
to
Mongo. So if
So
you
we've got
guys
a private,
want to
we've written some of our own packages, so they're
in.
in here.
As those record changes, your pages will be reflected.
We use
instantly
Ansible
as well.
for deployment, but
You have scores for going up and down. If we had like a leaderboard,
in fact, let me
you
show you
can
this
see
real
all
quick.
that.
This is pretty sweet.
Right.
So if we want to
everyone sees that
test this up,
live,
get
get
it
active,
release it into the world, even just
pretty
locally,
fast.
or
So
for testing.
let's come in
You do
here
Meteor,
and let's
deploy,
grab
and we'll call this
in materialize
CBK
navbar
test demo.
grid
.meteor.com.
Grab a table.
And now it packages
So grab
it,
the
it
table
minimizes
code.
everything,
Come in
it's
here
minifying,
and
it does all this magic to make it even more efficient for us. And Meteor hosts it for us. We can also host
after
it.
sign in,
We can have Meteor host it and use another domain name.
So we're in our home postcard
point
template
it to it. So I could
and
have
we've
said
got
there,
this table, and I'm going to say
code by
name is
kids.com,
going to be,
and then if you just change the CBK
and so
DNS
this is kind of
server
an interesting thing. So we've got this
pointed
table.
to Meteor.
This is the table head.
then it'll just work.
Table body is we've got.
If you
these
want to get
different
really
rows.
production
We only
ready,
need one row.
you can set it up on
And I'm going to come in
something
here and
like
I'm gonna say
DigitalOcean, which is what we use. I pay like $5 a
student.
month for a server. It works great.
So I'm
Use,
saying with each
the
student,
free version of Mongo or Compose
I
to
guess
host.
I really want to
Works
do
great.
that here. So for each student, create this code.
So it's bundled it, it's uploading it.
And in doing so, not only is this going to iterate over this, and for every entry of student, it's going to put a new
Just take a
row.
minute.
It's also going to assign
While
a
it's doing
data
that, I'll show you
context to
the
all
code
of
of
this. So what that means is I'm saying,
Sales
you know,
box.
I'm going to
So
define what
if we look at our
student is,
client,
and student's going to be an array of our. It's going to be our
we've
collection.
got,
And within
well,
there,
this is kind of the.
so for each
I've got this,
document in that collection, do this, and for each one of these,
So I got
if I
sign
say
up, I kind of have
something
like public stuff.
name, it's just going to grab that
Maybe
document's name out of the gate.
more-
Now I can also make it more helper to say like get the name, but also
so here's public.
capitalize.
So here's my
or get the name and
homepage.
add something to it, or do a check on it. So let's do name, let's do date,
So I use Bootstrap.
and let's do
We have
score.
a public navigation. I have a private navigation. So that's
And
a lot of
let's do
code, a lot of
name,
ifs.
date, score. Now, if I just save this, it's not going to be
Beta
impressive.
sign up is kind of an interesting
We're gonna
one.
do
So you can only go to the Beta sign up if you follow the accurate link.
Yeah, so we've got no
So
fields
like,
in there.
you know, you
because it
sign up
doesn't
for
know
Beta,
what
when I
student
invite
is.
you, you'll get
But if I come into my
a
home
URL
JS,
with a special code on
and I
it.
say template dot
We check that code to go in and make sure you're actually supposed to be there.
home postcard,
All that kind of stuff.
postcard dot helpers.
I mean, we really try to break
And I'm
the
gonna
app
create
out into
one
different
for student.
sections. So
Each
each
student
student
is
section,
gonna
so we have like
be-
the pipeline. It's a sales app.
I'm
And
gonna
in
say
there we've got like
return,
alerts, we've got
students,
buckets, anything that's used throughout the app we put in comments.
Find,
So like our logo.
So I'm just saying, go get all the
CSS
students
element.
and return all that.
I'll show you what that is.
In fact, don't even have to fetch it. I can just say
yes.
find, and that returns a cursor, which I don't really understand, but it's like not like the document, but it's a reference to the document.
So the logo up here, or if I sign out,
I save that.
this logo, it's actually just 3 DOMs. You can see.
There are
So
students.
I just made a template out of this. So anytime I want my logo, I just
and
drop that in there.
dates. I know why date.
And that's how we get that nice little animation. And by making it DOMs, it's fully scalable. It's like SVG. I don't know. I don't love SVG. And we can sign in.
Because I called it attendance.
So in this case, I built
maybe
my
can
own
do,
sign-in form, and I handle
so
handle like
home,
errors. So
let's
if I-
do instead of date. Let's do
log in.
last date.
So I built that out to handle
And for
myself.
date
If
here,
you're not signed up, you can request
We're going to
an
create a
invite.
helper for date.
And all those little animations, just with Meteor,
and
makes
I'm
it
going to
really
say
easy.
dates equals this.
Isn't working anymore.
So I've got a data context. So when I say this, I'm talking about the data there. And I'm
I'll
going to
show you
say
the actual.
attendance, right? That's what I called it.
And in Iron Router, we handle a lot of the stuff like
Attendance.
if you're
Okay.
if you're logged
then I'm
in,
also- then I'm
and you
gonna
try to go to
return,
or if you're not logged in and you try to go to a private page,
dates.
it's going to boot you back out, give you to the home page.
And I just want to return the last
If
one.
you
in
are
that
logged
array.
in and you try to go to the
So
dashboard,
I'll
it's automatically
say,
going to bring you into the app,
dates
into your
dot
home
left.
page.
I think that
All these
good job.
actions are done by adding
I know.
classes, so these things slide out.
So that's a good example of me taking the data
So,
and
I built a
modifying it.
pretid interactive
I did not do the job. Let's find
app
out why.
here. You click a new
Did you
task,
like
it's adding new
-1
class
'cause it's
tasks to
zero
the
indexed?
database. Delete them is animating them out and then
So
removing
instead
them.
of dates.last, it's just -1.
You can do a fair amount
How do we get
within
to
the
zero?
confines of this.
A.length.
So I can open up and
Yep,
check the
you're right.
console
Thank
and
you.
see all these people, add people to it.
-1.
I think there should be something.
You're also calling it date in
If
the
I attend a
template?
networking event, I get points
that-
for it. Yeah. So it's very
Instead of
interactive. That's
dates?
kind of the fun of.
So
the
you
fun of
see I'm
Meteor
calling
is
it
I can
date
build
here.
all this stuff. Being
Oh,
somebody who's
okay.
never built an app before.
In here, I'm just declaring a local
Um,
variable just because I'm going to be using this twice.
Okay, let's check on it.
So there we go. So we got the last
Okay,
date.
so we're
We've
deployed.
got
Now you
score.
guys, where you can.
And
go
let's
to
say maybe this is a leaderboard, so I want to know
cdktestdemo.com.
who's on top. You
On
can
your
also
own,
do
and
let's
pull it up.
do sort. So we can add. So we're going to do find, and I want to find everybody, and then I also want to sort.
And if you want to mess
Fine.
around with it, just open up the
Okay.
inspect element.
We call that score, right? Yeah.
And I'll show you that code again. It's going to be students.insert.
So I want to sort it by score.
And inside there, let's see if that works. Just put their info. So name.
There we go.
Trevor
So when I
Geis.
say this is reactive and we're really running to the server, we can pull up our
What else do
console
we have? Score.
and
0.
we can add a new student.
And attendance.
Let's say Sally June.
And just make that an
Let's
array.
say Sally June
Do
has 331. So she's going to be in the middle. Boom, there's Sally June. And maybe we want to say,
Is that working for you guys?
let's do students.
And if you have it open, you'll
Yeah,
see if I add
update.
10 points, those 10 points are going to be reflected
And
on
I
your
can either
screen as well.
grab
Yeah.
this
Cut it out.
ID to update just that ID, or I can say
Take
like
that.
students that update,
Yeah.
find this one student kind of a thing. But so let's update Sally June here, and I'm going to set the score to 500 or 400. Boop. So
She
not only
deserves
is the
lots
score
of
update,
points.
Yeah.
we also change the order instantly. And now, the same as before, we could style these. Say if you're the
It didn't
leader,
push
then
the,
make it blue, or whatever we want.
My local
Um,
database.
Yeah, it
But
didn't
so now we
push
have a
that,
database. It's dynamic.
but it's still set up.
And then if we want to
remotely
add
with the same. Well, not with
here, so this
okay.
will be kind of a nice
Yeah.
thing. Let's,
So when
and
I'm
then
running on my
I'm
machine,
asking.
let's make it so we can
when I'm
actually
running on my
interact
machine,
with the
I think I know what you're
database.
asking. I had the same
On our home
issue when I
page,
started. When I'm running on my machine,
score,
MongoDB is
we're gonna add
installed
one
on my
more
machine.
button here.
So that database is sitting on my machine. When I push it up, it doesn't push it. So I have
for materialize. So let's
a
find out.
development database locally. If I want to push it or pull it, I can do that. I can.
It's a
You
cool
can get some
button.
codes where you can say, okay,
Let's do this.
download that database basically, and then upload it to this, to the actual database that's now on this server.
So we're coming here and add this button.
So you could
And
do that, but
say
generally you'll have your production
add points.
database where people are actually using it,
Do add 10
and then you'll have
points.
your local database. Or you can do what we do at Salesbox, which is we use Compose.io to host our database. And locally or on the server, we can point to the same database and see it. And that's useful for us because
And I'm here, I'm gonna
I actually
add
want to see
a,
what my user's data is going to look like. Make sure
To
we're
me,
not
it's like a
screwing it up
helper
or anything.
class in a way. So you can call it add points.
Yeah.
I pick up what you're putting down.
Okay, I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but that's what I do. So you can see already there's
But that's
add
the idea.
10
I mean,
points buttons.
Relatively quickly, we built a
Now they're not going to do
little
anything.
app.
Except it has that cool
You-
wave
with-
effect.
With sign on, you can go in and you can create your
So
own
let's
account.
make it do something. So I don't think anything's going to happen
Home.js.
after we. This is in our home postcard
Nice button
template.
effect.
Yeah, that's materialized.
This
I
events. Oh, I don't have an account. That's why. So I can register. Click add points.
Yeah, did you remove the sign in
Set
with
up a
Google
function for
Plus?
that.
Like it's in the upper right, that template isn't supposed to render.
So when you click, there's
yeah, I
also.
removed that.
Remember, we have that
Okay.
data context.
Yeah, I could have added.
So it knows
back
when I
and
click
add
on
it
this,
right
the
now,
data
refresh it
context
if you
of
want,
this
but-
is Sally
Okay.
June's
Pull it out when you edit it.
document. So if I say something like console.log
So much is happening.
this, which I do all the time, by the way, to kind of like, as I'm coding, I'm kind of sloppy, so I kind of lose where I am.
and I'll just console.log this. Any other questions? Anything that jumps out at you? Anything that doesn't make sense? That over there.
Yeah, no, this is
So if I click on that, there's Sally
a
June.
lot easier than
There's Sally
just
May.
building it all out with
And
new.
there's Bob Smith. Yeah. So that's the this. Good. That's what I thought. So now what do we want to do? And you can see, you can pick and choose. Like if you like Angular, you can actually use Angular with this.
Right.
By default, it uses Blaze. Dot update. And you can use Bootstrap. I mean, you can use basically anything you want. You can use a underscore ID database, but right out of the box, for 99% of the world, it's pretty nice. And then they have a whole Cordova add-on as well, so you can add that, and you can instantly publish to +10. Not just a web build, but an iPhone build and an Android build. Push those out, so it's. And that's getting good. If you're really doing this kind of fancy, we'd probably set this to self, just so we don't lose the this. But I think it'll work just fine for now.
Why do you think more people aren't using this right now?
It's very new. The biggest complaint, they just hit 1.0 a few months ago. So if I add, so the biggest complaint before was people are kind of hacking with it and messing around with it, but they're a little scared to start using it in production. Like real production. Adding the 10 points, and again, this is the only part that's dynamic. Rails has been around a lot longer. Rails is a huge community. Very big companies use Rails. So unless Meteor is the whole thing moves getting more well known. Advances. There's a number of startups that have raised, but even the whole list doesn't change. Only those two moving built on Meteor are very great. But as of today, I don't think there's any like. So you can pull the data in from a billion-dollar startup, manipulate it very easily. You can delete people. Just if we want to delete somebody, and also I think just kind of they're fighting against remove the standard. The stuff. An old way of doing things. They're fighting against Rails, and now they're gone. There's people. There's a lot of people that love Rails. Underscore is a good thing to learn. They just spend all this time learning it. It kind of makes a lot of this busy work. Admit that that's now faster and that's old.
Right.
But I think that's supposed to be a sidebar, but I don't think it's added to the
This is a bastard to learn. Don't tell me it's gone yet.
I know. Oh, that's it. That's it. And it has its place. It's very well built, and that's kind of the heart of it. It has a huge community. I can show you that it's going anywhere. But Meteor, you're hard pressed to find a use case where you probably shouldn't be building in Meteor, in my opinion. A living example.
Unbiased opinion.
So this is my company's code. If there's things I'm missing, I want to know as well. And it's not polished. So this is like very much in development. So we got lots of like random files, different places. But you can see we've got our private. We've written some of our own packages. Doing a really nice job there. And the company itself is. So this is all open source. We use Ansible for deployment, but Meteor is that is. In fact, the company is very well funded. Let me show you this real quick. This is pretty sweet. I think the biggest downside to Meteor, get it released into the world, which Rails is currently the same thing, but it's deployment. You do Meteor. I can throw this up very quick and easy, but if I want to have my own production server, it's a little bit of a trick right now. CBK. They're working on that, but. Test demo. I essentially brought on my co-founder at Meteor.com because I'm not a server guy, and I needed somebody who could handle all that. Now it packages it, it minimizes everything, make sure we don't get hacked, and make sure the thing's not going to go down, and all this stuff. It does all this magic to make it even more efficient for us. And Meteor hosts it for us.
Yeah. So we can also host that's definitely one of Node's.
So we can have Meteor host it and use another domain name. We just point it to it. So I could have said there. Coded by kids.com. Yeah. And then if you just change, and I mean, if you wanted to roll your sleeves up and get in there and make core changes to Meteor, can. There's some people using some really brilliant people using Meteor. If you want to get really in there and make packages that reset it up, that makes it something like DigitalOcean server-side rendering. All this. I pay like $5 a month for a server. It works great. That's one thing too. SEO is Mongo or a little bit of a trick with it right now. You can get it to work, but it isn't. Works great. So super friendly. Mostly because server-side rendering isn't. It's doable right now, but it isn't. It's uploading it. Obvious. Right. So if you were going to write a blog, I wouldn't use Meteor for a blog. It's taking a minute. Ghost or WordPress or whatever. Well, it's doing that. I'll show you the code of. But if you're making an app. sales box. So if we look at our client,
No, it definitely looks good. I appreciate this.
we've got
Yeah, no problem.
this is kind of the
talk about me here.
I've got
Glad you
this,
guys-
This is really neat. Thank you.
so I got sign up,
Yeah,
I kind of
sure,
like
absolutely.
public stuff, and I say, and just jump in, install it, make a project. They have a bunch
maybe
of
more
demo projects.
make more sense if I showed you.
Or
so here's public.
so
So here's
we can
my
just start working on code
homepage.
and just start kind of breaking it down into little blocks and saying, well, what do we want to do? What kind of sign-ups?
I use Bootstrap.
We have a
there's some
public
sort of unique
navigation,
patterns
private
where you have
navigation,
different kinds
so
of user accounts. You've got students, you've got instructors, you've got
a lot of
admins.
code, a lot of ifs.
So that's what I got.
I'm gonna take
Beta
some
sign
time
up is kind of an
Cool.
interesting one.
this
So you can only go to the beta
Cool.
sign up if you
Awesome.
follow the
Okay, that
accurate
pause
link.
probably sounded satirical.
So like you sign up for beta. When I invite you, you'll get a URL with a special code on it.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. If you play around, you have
We
questions,
check
let
that
me know.
code to go in and make sure
and,
you're actually supposed to be there.
If
that kind of
Sylvester,
stuff.
if you want to, think about how we can start breaking down sort of the
I
platform.
mean, we really try to break
or
the
anything
app
like that,
out
you
into
think
different
it's a good fit for it,
sections.
let me
So
know,
each
and we can
different
start
section,
diving into that
we have
at
like the
some point.
pipeline,
So
the
I
sales
do-
app,
I do
and in there we've
take
got
some
like
time
alerts.
to think about
We've
that
got
this week
buckets.
and
Awesome.
talk this week.
Anything that's used
Perfect.
throughout
Thanks,
the
guys.
app, we put
All
in
right, thanks,
comments.
man.
So
You guys.
like our logo is a CSS